Cancer Wellness Awareness Day that is a tongue twister specifically. It's looking at more of like lifestyle, getting back to feeling you, accessing different resources available to you to manage your wellness after a diagnosis of cancer. It's really kind of putting the focus on how can we um, put that focus back into yourself rather than some of the scarier aspects of cancer, just getting through the treatments kind of things, which is vital and important, but really also supporting your mental health and the rest of your life at the same time. So, looking at the whole person, basically.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back to another episode of A Plate Full of Insights. Glad to have you back with us again. If you haven't seen any of our episodes, watched any of our episodes, or listened, be sure to check us out. We're on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. We're in all the places. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, do all the things. We're back with the super cool episode today. I have Andrea and Laura with me, who you've seen before. And if this is your first time watching one of our episodes, then there's a ton of episodes that they've done with us, and I can't remember all the ones that are there. So be sure to check them out and have a scroll through the list. Hopefully, our team will link some of those in the description box. One of the reasons why we have Laura back today is she's our resident cancer expert on the team, and we're talking about Cancer Wellness Awareness Day. I don't know why that's a tongue twister for me, but it's a little bit of a tongue twister.
It's a long one.
It is a lot of alternating syllables. So we've talked about cancer before. There's a couple episodes not too long ago. We talked about apple cider vinegar, and we also did an episode just general nutrition and cancer. But this one is a timely episode for a special day that's coming up, June 26th, Cancer Wellness Awareness Day. So what better way to talk about it than to have Laura with us? So welcome back again, Laura.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I don't know if you've hosted an episode yet. I say welcome back as if this is like you're a guest, even though you're on our team. So you need to come up with better introductions.
Yeah, just popping in. Yeah. I'm
So
still
tell us.
happy to be here.
Good. Tell us about this day. What it means, what the significance of this day is, just to get us going.
Yeah, like you said, we've been here before and we've chatted a little bit about cancer and nutrition, so kind of the specifics on that. But Cancer Wellness Awareness Day, that is a tongue twister specifically. It's looking at more of like lifestyle, getting back to feeling you, accessing different resources available to you to manage your wellness after a diagnosis of cancer. So it's kind of to shed light on the fact that cancer is a common diagnosis that people will receive. Um, it's kind of flip flopping now these days, but Canadians, the statistic I think right now is about 2 in 5 Canadians will experience or develop cancer in their lifetime. So it's definitely something that's relevant to a lot of people, and most people have been touched by cancer, whether it's a loved one or a friend or themselves. So it's really kind of putting the focus on how can we um, put that focus back into yourself rather than some of the scarier aspects of cancer, just getting through the treatments kind of things, which is vital and important, but really also supporting your mental health and the rest of your life at the same time. So, yeah, I think that summarizes a little bit, but yeah, looking at the whole person basically.
2 in 5. That's 40%.
Yeah, and it used to be 1 and 2. So that's where it's kind of flip flopping between. So,
Well, even 40 or 50%. I mean, that's still a significant number. I don't know why I don't know why I'm surprised by that stat, but I shouldn't be really when you think about it.
a little alarming. It's a not fun fact.
So, as the name of this day includes the word wellness. Now, we've talked about wellness a lot. Wellness can be used in positive contexts. It can be used in not great contexts. There's other words I could probably use, but I will refrain. What does it mean in this context?
When I think of it, it's looking at the individual person. So it can mean something different for everybody or a single person. It's not just things like going to the spa or drinking green smoothies like you might see the influencers sort of portray these days. It's really just getting back to what feels right for you. If you have found during your diagnosis with cancer that you've maybe lost a little bit of what you enjoyed in your current lifestyle, prioritizing other things for very good reasons, but maybe missing some of those aspects like good rest, feeling safe in your body again, managing pain, all of those things. That can be an aspect of wellness for sure that sometimes can go missed as we're in the midst of treatments and all the doctor's appointments and all of that. Again, not fun stuff, right?
I think I can even add to that, Laura, too. Like wellness even expands into things like relationships and community and even just self acceptance and self worth and learning to live or depending on where someone is on their journey. So that wellness can really expand to so many different components for people. But I don't think we think that. We just seem to think in the basics, but we forget like wellness is this huge bucket we can tap into, which I like.
Wellness is a bucket. I love that.
Not a bad analogy. I mean, it's large. I think it's, you think wellness in some aspects, it's kind of like predefined usually by whatever you're seeing around you and the people. I want to say usually in some social media feed, video or otherwise, but it can be defined so broadly. So who's to say that you can't just define it however you want to define it? You know, you don't need to just always associate it with some other thing or some idealistic view of what you should or should not be doing as a human.
Yeah, I think it can be part of, depending where you're at in your cancer journey as well, it can be part of recovery. Like as much as possible, it's ideal to prioritize your wellness and your well being throughout your whole experience with cancer. But the recovery is where I find a lot of people start to think about it again. So, like, once I finish my treatments, then I can get back to myself, sort of thing. And um, that can be a little bit tough sometimes because it kind of gets into that area of like bounce back culture where there's that pressure for you to just go totally back to normal once you finish treatments. Um, some of that can be expectations from society, our friend group, just not really understanding the position that you're in, and that's very normal. But it's good to focus back in on that recovery. It's not necessarily linear, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're failing or not recovering at the right pace. It just means that you need to kind of honor the pace that your body is at right now, and give yourself grace at those times too.
I like that, Laura. And I work with quite a few clients who are, in a form of stage as well, or going through a journey or with a loved one. And it's kind of like it really is okay to just be where you're at today. And that, sometimes is just enough. And I feel like during the pandemic, they killed the new normal aspect. But sometimes that's what clients who are living with cancer or recovering from cancer, that bounce back to what was, but actually could be an opportunity of this is my new normal and that's okay. It might look different than what I was before. That kind of grieving and acceptance of today is today and that's okay to be here today.
Ditto. Agreed.
Yes, Laura, I don't know if there's numbers to this, and there's probably so much variability, but on the point that Andrew, you just noted about a new normal, like aside from the body functioning and feeling different before and after treatment and interventions related to cancer, what is any number come to mind in terms of like the duration of time from diagnosis to end of treatment in a rough way? Like how many months or years is that usually for most folks?
Again, very individual. One kind of aspect to touch on, I guess, is that there are both short-term kind of effects of cancer and its treatment and longer-term effects of cancer and its treatment. So it's really not something that we can accurately estimate, like how your journey is going to go. Can go off of other experience as well, but in the end, yeah, absolutely going to be different. But it is good to touch on that too, because long-term fatigue, cancer-related fatigue, is a very real and common thing, and that can last up to a year after you finish your treatments, or even longer. It's not entirely uncommon for that to happen. And then two, if your treatment involved surgery or removal of certain organs, things like that, that can absolutely have a longer term effect on your body. So it's just acknowledging those things are changing, and we're here to kind of provide that support on the nutrition side of things, wellness side of things, but also knowing that, yeah, there is going to be that new normal for sure. Absolutely.
I mean, we stack, so your body is different in some way, physiologically, depending on the treatments, and then just so much time has also potentially gone by, even if it's months, but it could be a year, and not necessarily like to end of treatment per se, but like to the point where like, you're starting to kind of feel better per se. Like a lot of things can happen in that time. And of course, we're going to remember a certain time point that's kind of set in the past of where I was functioning a certain way up to this point. I want to get back to that point, which is a completely valid thing to think about. Why wouldn't I be able to do that again? But so many things can happen in that place. You're also just body's functioning differently. It is, from what I'm hearing, probably not the most realistic approach or expectation to put on yourself if that's something you're going through.
Being kind to yourself. There's things that absolutely we can work towards to get back to, if there's activities you really enjoyed, um, things like interacting with your community, all of those things that you can absolutely find adaptations to these activities if needed. Or, yeah, just being kind with your progress, right? We're not expecting you to jump right back into it, but there's lots of positives to take from that, and the motivation to get back to some of those activities if possible.
There's one piece, I think, if we were just to summarize that, if you wanted to, if someone was sitting in front of you and you wanted to have them ponder that process, I think I really liked the journaling prompt that you have in the notes here. What is that journaling prompt specifically?
The very first one that we have, yeah. So, I mean, that's a good check-in, um, to ask yourself, what does wellness feel like for me right now? Because that can absolutely change within a day, within the hour sometimes, depending on what's going on. So it's as simple as taking 1 minute to just reflect on that. Update yourself. Do I need to adapt? Is this not serving me right now? Maybe I thought this was right for me in this moment. Um, and then go to try it and realizing, okay, maybe this is bringing out some emotions, feelings that I didn't really expect, maybe good, maybe bad. But always checking in with yourself as much as possible. That's the biggest power of reflection, is getting to know yourself, especially in a chaotic world, dealing with some chaotic things, that can go missed a lot of the time. So absolutely, little 1 minute reflection, never hurts for sure.
Oh, that's just like that just journaling prompt can be for anybody for anything. Like, what a good prompt that is. Like, we don't pause and ask those questions. So I think, yeah, whoever is listening or wherever you're at, that's just a great one all around. I love that one.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I agree. I like it. Let's get into some nutrition things. So I think one of the things that I've heard you talk about before, if my memory serves me correctly, and you've kind of already alluded to it today, is what one might view as a more gentler approach to nutrition, or not a, I would say, traditional approach to trying to make some sort of change with your eating habits. Can you walk us through some of the key points that you think about when you're working with folks that are either going through cancer treatment or recovery or whatever the case is? What are some of those things that come out that you think about or that you talk about with your clients?
Yeah, I do like the term gentle nutrition because it's like the antithesis to what we see nowadays. Well, I see it a lot. I don't know, maybe because I'm just in this realm. But once you receive that kind of cancer diagnosis, or maybe you learn that you're at high risk of certain cancer diagnoses, I need to revamp my entire diet and lifestyle. I need to eat vegan, I need to juice, or maybe I need to go carnivore diet, all things like that. Very extremes and not very gentle. Um, but it's that kind of bridging the gap between what's evidence based and what is actually realistic for you to achieve in your current lifestyle and what you got going on in your schedule. So that's where gentle nutrition comes in. There's lots of things to consider that, again, can be very individual for the person depending on what their journey with cancer looks like. So, some people might be dealing with fatigue from cancer treatments or just the cancer itself. Nausea and appetite loss can be a common side effect as well. So, often the goal with that is just not going for perfection, right? It's just getting something in you that feels nourishing, even if it's in smaller amounts, because healthy food, it's really only healthy if you eat it, right? So if you're not going to drink the juice, or if you're not going to get a nice cut of meat in for some protein or anything like that, because you're too nauseous to stomach all of that, then that's not what we're going to go for. We're going to go for smaller steps to get you closer to that bigger win, right? So yeah, some side effects that we can sort of adapt and overcome there. Um, Different things like with nausea, it can be very helpful to have like cold foods or maybe some more bland foods that aren't going to trigger a lot of your smell if you're kind of averted to certain smells and that makes you nauseous. So there's some kind of strategies that we can approach it with, and then you take or leave which ones work for you, basically. Um, so that's kind of a big part of it, is just getting to know you, what you're experiencing, and then adapt as we sort of need there. Um, and I'm sure, yeah, this is something that lots of people deal with. You guys probably work with people where we are working around appetite and things like that too. So I'm sure you guys can also speak on what has worked, but that is definitely a common thing that we look at for sure.
Yeah, I was chuckling as you were going through that because the line that hit me, which I actually really like, is, oh man, what was it? Um,
Must not like it that much.
yeah, well, it's,
Healthy food is only healthy if you eat it.
thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that wasn't my best performance there, that's for sure. My working memory did me a solid. It's, yeah, I feel like the folks that I work with, I don't work with folks who have or have had cancer, but appetite concerns is a pretty huge thing with folks that I work with, and trying to find methods and strategies and little things here and there to help either work with or work around either an aversion or an appetite issue. And usually, I mean, appetite's lower, things aren't just going to seem as exciting, and so you gotta kind of find a clever way about it. And sometimes the vibe at the grocery store is, man, this is going to be great, this is going to look awesome, and then it just, goes to the crisper to goes to die in the crisper and in the fridge. So if you didn't have it anyways, then that's one of those things I feel like where we're not necessarily leading people down a path of having like the most pristine diet. And in some cases, the choice that we may suggest is not like the tippy top of the, spectrum of health promoting foods. But if it helps people be fed more often in this context, that's more of a priority for me in some of those situations. And I feel like that applies quite well here as well.
Agreed. Another thing, I guess, to focus on is maybe some of the nutrients that we do prioritize when living with cancer. There are some that we want to physically focus on. Um, the main one I would say is probably protein, and I think we did touch on this in our other podcast. That's because cancer itself can act to draw some muscle loss from us. So through all of the biochemistry that I will not be able to explain very well. Basically, yeah, cancer can cause hypermetabolism. It can speed up uh, the amount of energy and things that we need to sustain throughout the day. So the protein can be very, very valuable in maintaining your muscle, but also just preventing weight loss overall to help with functioning, reducing fatigue, things like that. So the proteins that we would like to focus on, so some of those things that get better bang for your buck are things like nut butters, beans, eggs, tofu, yogurt. I find those are kind of the ones that a lot of people have success with, and can also be friendly, I guess, for nausea, a little bit more opportunity to choose some bland type foods and then add seasoning and flavorings as you need it. Sometimes I find red meats, depending on the treatment that you're receiving, those can give a bit of a metallic taste in some occasions. So it's always just managing, because red meat can be an awesome choice, or if it's something that you're really not enjoying, we're not going to force you to have it by any means. But protein is the big one for sure. Hydration, if we are dealing with nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, things like that, that can all be side effects of cancer or its treatments. We want to make sure that you're replacing some of those losses with fluids. And so it can be anything from broth, smoothies, soups, infused waters, and even tea and coffee. Those are all totally fine to include as well. And then it just comes to sometimes your individual tolerance can vary with those types. So it is taking that balanced approach in many of those things. But usually those are kind of the main pieces that we want to take a look at and make sure we got a good base to start off with there.
I even think too, Laura, some of my clients, like taste also is an issue, or just fatigue with eating as well. So sometimes maybe what tasted good before just might not taste the same again. And which can be really discouraging, because it's like, oh, that's something I really liked or enjoy. And sometimes that takes a little bit to keep trying, and not just try once and not come back to it, because to your point, right, a lot of those protein based foods, depending on the day, just might not be it. So you might be, more towards the nausea day, like a cooler option, but like, a yogurt or something a little bit less more bland. But not forgetting to come back and try it maybe on a day that maybe feeling a little bit better, or to just not give up. But yeah, the taste is another one too that I've seen, depending on the treatment or some of the medications, to leave a not good taste, which then, if we think about when we eat, that's one of our enjoyable pieces, right? How it tastes and how it smells. And when that piece is not there, that leads to kind of that turn off of it. But it might not be like that the next time you have it. So I always try to tell clients, you know what, tried it, great, but let's not quite throw it out. Let's try it again a little later on.
Yeah, revisiting as needed. That's kind of, I feel like, a pretty hot tip, actually. I feel like before any of my experiences with kind of like taste aversions and low appetite and things like that, um, I would have thought, like, go for the foods that you love when you're not feeling great, because you love those, so it's giving you, like, the best chances. But actually, I found, it's actually more helpful to avoid the foods that you love and always go to if you're not feeling well. You can always go back to them, when you are feeling a little bit better, but we don't want you to kind of lose that joy that you get from that food if you really are feeling unwell, and it kind of causes maybe less of a good experience for you to recall on next time you have it. Um, so it can be individual again, but that's a good tip, is go for maybe some new foods, smaller amounts, trying things out when you're not feeling too great, and keep those foods that you really love for when you're feeling a little bit better and like you can digest most things.
Yeah, I have obviously not working as much as you, Laura, but I do have, a few clients who currently working with, and even just like the eating out, right, which is supposed to be an experience, can, yeah, depending on where things are at, change that. So even like relearning social experiences around foods, maybe it's changing the environment up as well, which we think about. We use some of these strategies in older populations, right? Try to make that eating experience enjoyable as well, which feeds into that wellness piece as you're trying to retry new food as well, or reintroduce food as well.
I've never actually thought about it like that before. Uh, I can I can see how it would make sense to go towards the foods you really enjoy. You're more likely to have to consume more of them potentially. And in theory, I feel like that makes sense, but I've never thought about the risk of that going sideways, and then it just tarnishes a favorite food that you had, either because it's just not appealing anymore, and that can be quite a letdown, or sometimes if you're feeling like trash and you have a food at around that period of time where you feel like trash, then you associate that food with feeling like trash. And yeah, I that
I feel like we all have an instance that we can remember where we went too overboard on food and never again. My thing is, when I was a kid, it was like that what is that, like brisk cream soda or whatever the brand is, that's like bright pink. I remember Brush, is that what it is?
Like cream soda.
Sorry, yeah, forgot. I haven't had it for years because I went too overboard on that. And if you've ever wondered if your vomit can be bright pink, absolutely can be. Not a fan. Will not drink that if you guys bring that to a potluck or anything.
That totally speaks to all of a sudden, like, visually, how that could turn a moment very quickly. So yeah, those, brain pathways are very quick to be like, I'm not going to be in that like situation again. That was enough to turn that off completely. So yeah, I also might not look at cream soda again the same. So Laura.
Yeah, sorry if I created an aversion for you guys.
that's funny.
Yeah.
Man. Uh You got a few myth busting things here, but just there's a few other pieces that I feel like we could get through. And I vaguely remember us going through some myth busting things in the other episode. Does that sound about right? And if so, then we can link to that wherever that could go.
Yeah, that was rapid fire, I think, and we went into it more in depth in our um, cancer and nutrition podcast for sure. So go there if you're looking to dispel some myths about cancer and nutrition for sure.
And I'm hoping one of those, which I'm sure we talked about, which I actually still even heard this week from a client, is sugar feeding my cancer. So like that, definitely head over to that podcast because yeah, you're not alone in hearing these things still. No.
Well said.
Sugar. Oh, sugar. So what's a good reflection point for this area?
Yeah, I think it's going back to the gentle nutrition aspects, right? It's not what diet should I follow? What do I have to remove and restrict? What are the only things that I can eat so that I don't make my cancer worse? Those are all very common questions. And I find add a lot of stress to the day. So taking it back to more gentle approach, like could I add a protein to my breakfast if I don't typically have one? Um, what's a veggie that I haven't had in a while that can kind of help me get a little bit more water and hydration in, maybe some fiber to help slow down digestion if we're dealing with like vomiting and diarrhea, things like that. Um, so just little things, thinking about taking it one little food at a time, one serving at a time, to see how you can add something in that will help nourish you, basically.
Love it. All right. So on to the next part that I feel like is a very, very relevant thing. There's some, and I feel like we've already kind of hit on this a little bit when we were going through the defining wellness and then also the nutrition components. Is I feel there's a huge emotional component to all of this. I mean, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of things changing. I mean, heck, even going through the things with nutrition can be very emotional to an extent. How do you go about that when you're talking with clients about this? Because I feel like it, the conversations you have with clients around cancer can't not have emotion in some way be a part of the conversation. Is that fair?
That's very fair. Yes. I feel like, I mean, makes sense. You're coming to a dietitian for help with things like nutrition coming into it. But a lot of the times we need to create some space for both physical healing and emotional healing. Um, because, yeah, it's a big aspect of lifestyle. Healing is messy in many ways, it can involve grief, it can involve hope, can feel and bring up feelings of guilt, relief, all of that stuff that can crop up as we're trying to make some lifestyle and behavior change. And that's where oftentimes we need to focus on. We need to validate those emotions. Those are all very common, very valid to experience. Even ones that you might find are conflicting or not sure why you're even feeling them. So sometimes we need to unpack those to realize what aspect of our lifestyle we really need to focus on at that point. So some of our strategies that we can bring up can be things like journaling. We can visit the idea of therapy, breath work, all of that good stuff. Finding what feels right and supportive to you. Um, so that, yeah, we can make you feel like you have that space to work on some of the other more gentle nutrition kind of aspects and physical recovery that we're looking at.
And I think, Laura, one of the things I see too is like the emotions can just like hit at any moment, right? If there's any even trauma associated with a lot of that, or if I think about some of my clients who are going in, to say a year check-in or a 5-year scan or whatever, right? You could be just moseying along, and all of a sudden something like that of another doctor's appointment, if that fear can come up. So I think knowing that emotional messiness, which I actually really like, can just show up at any time, and it is okay, and to say it and to know that it's not this linear thing either with emotions. They can appear at many different times.
I feel like there could also be some element too where people know themselves pretty well, I feel like, and you may avoid making certain decisions, or you may make the decision you don't want to make to intentionally bypass an emotional thing. I was really hoping that I was going to have a zinger word on the end of that, but it didn't come. But I've had that a lot, and I mean, a lot of things are emotional with a lot of the folks that we work with in a general sense. But I I would be very confident in saying that that would be an element of it as well. I mean, it can pop up at any time, but I mean, if you know that there's a path that you could walk down, that you have to walk down in order to make some form of a change, or working on something related to your nutrition or some part of your recovery process, and you just know there's this monster that's like standing in your way, like you're going to have to walk down that path or choose a different path. But you may either, that's it's a real decision to make in those moments.
Yeah, that can be a long kind of, I think what you're saying there is that that anxiety and stress that can come with contemplating making behavior change is like, is there a holdup going on there? And that's a really good time to reflect, take a pause. If something is feeling off, that's something that I hear quite often is, I know what I need to do. I want to do it. I feel great after doing it. I just like can't do it. So there's something that's a little bit off. There's something that's causing you to take a pause, and so that's the perfect time to do some reflection. I think we have a handy little quick self check tool that we often talk about here called the HALT pause. So it stands for hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. So that's when you give yourself a pause. If you're feeling off, emotionally low, irritable, anxious, or just not like yourself, ask yourself those questions. Am I hungry, angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? And if the answer to that, to any of those, is yes, then we might need to address that first before going for a new aspect of behavior change or a new big goal in terms of nutrition, which I guess if I'm hungry is the answer. That can be something that is a little bit more easier to connect. But it's always worth checking if there's anything else going on as well, right?
This tool, Laura, and I use it with some of my other clients in other aspects. Whether it's cravings or emotional eating or whatever it shows up as. And I used to teach this course, and they talked about you really need to like jolt the brain, like stop it from going down the rabbit hole or the spinning. We think about that spinning hamster on the wheel. So they talk about if you a way to use this strategy is really to like, you might have to just say this out loud. You might have to be like, halt, like, what is going on? You might need to jolt that system, because we are not used to being so self-reflected. You sometimes need that little like, whoa, like, okay, I got to do something different here before I kind of spin out. So I have seen and used this tool. I feel like it's a little bit more extreme, but like, yeah, you do have to knock that hamster off that wheel. So,
I like the hamster wheel analogy. I've had some of my clients say like, I just got a monkey brain. Like I need to just like woo it out kind of thing sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna use that.
that's exactly it. A lot of my clients talk about like these little things that are like really noisy and they're just chattering away. I'm like, you need to like like squish them for a bit, like just, or flick them off to give that space to be like, what is going on? So this strategy can be used, or the halt tool can be used in so many aspects. I actually quite like it.
It's a good one. Good one for our little monkey brains for sure.
Not where I thought that was going in that moment. I was like, oh, monkey brain, that's kind of next door to lizard brain, isn't it?
Oh, I feel like monkey brain is the one I've heard more often.
Mm.
I'm sure they're similar concepts. Yeah.
I need to hang around you a little bit more, apparently.
Maybe not. Maybe don't.
Oh, love that. Okay. Well, I want to make sure we get to this next thing to polish off this episode. You came up with a really cool little resource, and we'll figure out a way to have you folks watching and listening get access to it. We'll figure that out and make it obvious either in the description or wherever else. But walk us through this resource that you made yourself. I will add that and make this very clear. This is something you made yourself. This is really cool. Walk us through it.
Yeah, it's fun. I think we need a little bit more fun in our lives when we're trying to get some motivation or come up with a couple of little actions to help us out. So yeah, what I created for anybody to use, whether you're living with cancer, going through treatments, things like that, some small, gentle kind of tips and ideas as to how we can help balance out our lifestyle, contribute to our well being a little bit. And it's a cancer wellness bingo card. So, our topic of the day is cancer wellness awareness. So, getting back to some of those experiences that we might have, like fatigue, and just taking those little steps at a time to help with our overall day. We created this card here, including little tasks that you can try and check off. So it can be as something as simple as like eating a fruit for a snack one day, or maybe planning some meals with your family, going for a very short leisurely nature walk to just help get those endorphins going and things like that. And uh, the nice thing about the bingo card is if you're motivated by achieving that bingo, then yeah, you gotta do 5 or so of those tasks to get that bingo. So it's a nice little way to get yourself trying out some new habits and things like that that might help you out there.
There's some fun stuff on this, Laura. Like super. I'm intrigued by some of these things. So
What's your favorite one?
you know what? I love books. Reading is like my jam, but like a cookbook club, like that, I love whatever that is.
That one, I think we need to do as a group. Yeah. That's actually a good one to explain because maybe there's not enough explanation there, but it's where, yeah, you gather a group of friends, just like a book club, but you pick a cookbook. And each person picks one recipe to try. So, like, it could be one course. So, somebody could do the appetizer, somebody else could do the entree, somebody else could take dessert. But you all take it from the same cookbook, and then you all come together for your book meet uh, and have some nice food. So that's one that I was excited about.
And you can get cookbooks from the library as well for free. And if you only want to use it temporarily and don't want to have a stash of cookbooks that you may or may not use ever again, but maybe you will. Well, that's a good way to try it out.
That's one of my favorite fun facts, like the library and cookbooks, like, or even in used book. That's where you're going to find all the good cookbooks that people don't want around. Like, oh, there's some good stuff there.
Maybe if you got a secondhand cookbook from like a secondhand bookshop or like a Goodwill or something like this, maybe there's tips that somebody wrote in the cookbook for you. Like if a recipe sucks, maybe they wrote that in there for you. You never know.
Or you can tell by like which pages are the dirtiest and have like the most food splats on it, which ones get used the most. That's a good little clue there.
Who knew I was going to get cookbook tips while hosting a podcast? I didn't anticipate that. I like the coffee or tea date one myself. That's also just because I really like coffee.
Yeah, so some good stuff.
Love it. Well, we'll link it. We'll make sure that you can find this somewhere. I'm trying to think of the words of where we would probably. The only thing that's coming to mind is link right now. So our team will make sure that you can find your way to that bingo card, because you'll want that bingo card for sure. And I may make a different version of a bingo card like that because I love that idea.
I would want to hear if anybody did it. So like, come back and tell us that you did it and which one was your favorite. And if there was something else you wanted on there, like what would you have added on for yourself for wellness? We would love to hear.
Bingo card after you try this one. It'd be fun. Yeah. Laura, thanks for talking about this topic again. I've grown to really love talking about this with you. It's really, I always learn something new about it. It's not a thing that I've talked a lot about. So I hope that people listening and watching have enjoyed it as much as I have hosting it.
Likewise. Thank you for having me as always.
Of course. Andrea, we've done so many podcasts now. I pretty much call you a co-host anyways. So I would say thank you for coming, but we're pretty much in almost every podcast anyways. So,
yeah, I'm just here. I'm excited. I was excited to be with Laura talking about this. As somebody who works lots in chronic disease, this shows up in some form. So it's cool to put it all together.
Yeah, I agree. So for now, those of you that were watching or listening, thank you very much. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. Like, share, subscribe, do the things. Help us help our podcasts reach more people. That's why we're doing this. So have an excellent rest of your day, wherever you are, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night, who knows. And we'll talk to you very, very soon.